The law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. Welcome back to the Berean Pursuit. This is week 50, day 4. Today we're reading Job chapters 4 through 7, Psalm 99, and Revelation chapter 11. Last time in Job, we were seeing how Job was cursing the day of his birth. He was upset that he was alive at all if he was going to suffer like this. It would have been better to die at birth as far as he saw things. And his wife even told him to curse God and die, but he realized that that was not the right approach. You needed to accept whatever the Lord had to present for you, whether it's good or bad. He didn't know why this was happening, but he knew that he had to accept it and not blame God. And in all of it, he did not sin with his lips, and he did not accuse God of wrongdoing. And that's important. That's what Satan was hoping for, and Satan failed in all of this. So what he said would happen is not what did happen. He recognizes that we have free will, but he thought that Job would use his free will to curse God because that's the mindset that Satan has. And yet Job did not have Satan's mindset. He was someone who actually loved God and respected God. And so that's what we have seen so far. Now, today we're going to get into the conversation from Job's friends as they respond to what he has said. And it's going to end up with them saying things that are not true about God. And even Job himself will end up saying some things that he should not say. And we're going to see at the end all of this wrapped up. But for now, we're going to see the back and forth between Job and his friends. So let's go ahead and get into our reading in Job chapters 4 through 7. Then Eliphaz the Temanite replied, "If one ventures a word with you, will you be wearied? Yet who can keep from speaking? Surely you have instructed many and have strengthened their feeble hands. Your words have steadied those who stumbled. You have braced the knees that were buckling. But now trouble has come upon you, and you are weary. It strikes you, and you are dismayed. Is your reverence not your confidence, and the uprightness of your ways your hope? Consider now, I plead, who, being innocent, has ever perished? Or where have the upright been destroyed? As I have observed, those who plow iniquity, and those who sow trouble reap the same. By the breath of God they perish, and by the blast of his anger they are consumed. The lion may roar, and the fierce lion may growl, yet the teeth of the young lions are broken. The old lion perishes for lack of prey, and the cubs of the lioness are scattered. Now a word came to me secretly. My ears caught a whisper of it. In disquieting visions of the night, when deep sleep falls on men, fear and trembling came over me and made all my bones shudder. Then a spirit glided past my face, and the hair on my body bristled. It stood still, but I could not discern its appearance. A form loomed before my eyes, and I heard a whispering voice. Can a mortal be more righteous than God, or a man more pure than his Maker? If God puts no trust in his servants, and he charges his angels with error, how much more those who dwell in houses of clay, whose foundations are in the dust, who can be crushed like a moth? They are smashed to pieces from dawn to dusk. Unnoticed, they perish forever. Are not their tent cords pulled up, so that they die without wisdom? Call out if you please, but who will answer? To which of the holy ones will you turn? For resentment kills a fool, and envy slays the simple. I have seen a fool taking root, but suddenly his house was cursed. His sons are far from safety, crushed in court without a defender. The hungry consume his harvest, taking it even from the thorns, and the thirsty pant after his wealth. For distress does not spring from the dust, and trouble does not sprout from the ground. Yet man is born to trouble as surely as sparks fly upward. However, if I were you, I would appeal to God and lay my cause before him. The one who does great and unsearchable things, wonders without number. He gives rain to the earth and sends water upon the fields. He sets the lowly on high so that mourners are lifted to safety. He thwarts the schemes of the crafty so that their hands find no success. He catches the wise in their craftiness and sweeps away the plans of the cunning. They encounter darkness by day and grope at noon as in the night. He saves the needy from the sword in their mouth and from the clutches of the powerful. So the poor have hope, and injustice shuts its mouth. Blessed indeed is the man whom God corrects. So do not despise the discipline of the Almighty. For he wounds, but he also binds. He strikes, but his hands also heal. He will rescue you from 6 calamities. No harm will touch you in 7. In famine he will redeem you from death, and in battle from the stroke of the sword. You will be hidden from the scourge of the tongue, and will not fear havoc when it comes. You will laugh at destruction and famine, and need not fear the beast of the earth. For you will have a covenant with the stones of the field, and the wild animals will be at peace with you. You will know that your tent is secure, and find nothing amiss when inspecting your home. You will know that your offspring will be many, your descendants like the grass of the earth. You will come to the grave in full vigor, like a sheaf of grain gathered in season. Indeed, we have investigated, and it is true, so hear it and know for yourself. Then Job replied, "If only my grief could be weighed and placed with my calamity on the scales, for then it would outweigh the sand of the seas. No wonder my words have been rash, for the arrows of the Almighty have pierced me. My spirit drinks in their poison. The terrors of God are arrayed against me. Does a wild donkey bray over fresh grass, or an ox low over its fodder? Is tasteless food eaten without salt, or is there flavor in the white of an egg? My soul refuses to touch them. They are loathsome food to me. If only my request were granted and God would fulfill my hope, that God would be willing to crush me, to unleash his hand and cut me off. It still brings me comfort and joy through unrelenting pain that I have not denied the words of the Holy One. What strength do I have that I should still hope? What is my future that I should be patient? Is my strength like that of stone, or my flesh made of bronze? Is there any help within me, now that success is driven from me? A despairing man should have the kindness of his friend, even if he forsakes the fear of the Almighty. But my brothers are as faithless as wadis, as seasonal streams that overflow, darkened against the ice and the inflow of melting snow, but ceasing in the dry season and vanishing from their channels in the heat. Caravans turn aside from their routes, they go into the wasteland and perish. The caravans of Tema look for water, the travelers of Sheba hope to find it. They are confounded because they had hoped. Their arrival brings disappointment. For now you are of no help. You see terror and you are afraid. Have I ever said, give me something, offer me a bribe from your wealth, deliver me from the hand of the enemy, redeem me from the grasp of the ruthless? Teach me and I will be silent. Help me understand how I have erred. How painful are honest words. But what does your argument prove? Do you intend to correct my words and treat as wind my cry of despair? You would even cast lots for an orphan and barter away your friend. But now please look at me. Would I lie to your face? Reconsider. Do not be unjust. Reconsider, for my righteousness is at stake. Is there iniquity on my tongue? Can my mouth not discern malice? Is not man consigned to labor on earth? Are not his days like those of a hired hand? Like a slave he longs for shade, like a hireling he waits for his wages. So I am allotted months of futility, and nights of misery are appointed me. When I lie down, I think, when will I get up? But the night drags on, and I toss and turn until dawn. My flesh is clothed with worms and encrusted with dirt. My skin is cracked and festering. My days are swifter than a weaver's shuttle. They come to an end without hope. Remember that my life is but a breath. My eyes will never again see happiness. The eye that beholds me will no longer see me. You will look for me, but I will be no more. As a cloud vanishes and is gone, so he who goes down to Sheol does not come back up. He never returns to his house. His place remembers him no more. Therefore I will not restrain my mouth. I will speak in the anguish of my spirit. I will complain in the bitterness of my soul. Am I the sea or the monster of the deep that you must keep me under guard? When I think my bed will comfort me, and my couch will ease my complaint, then you frighten me with dreams and terrify me with visions, so that I would prefer strangling and death over my life in this body. I loathe my life. I would not live forever. Leave me alone, for my days are but a breath. What is man that you should exalt him, that you should set your heart upon him, that you attend to him every morning and test him every moment? Will you never look away from me or leave me alone to swallow my spittle? If I have sinned, what have I done to you, O watcher of mankind? Why have you made me your target, so that I am a burden to you? Why do you not pardon my transgression and take away my iniquity? For soon I will lie down in the dust. You will seek me, but I will be no more. And now let's read Psalm 99. The Lord reigns, let the nations tremble. He is enthroned above the cherubim, let the earth quake. Great is the Lord in Zion, he is exalted above all the peoples. Let them praise your great and awesome name. He is holy. The mighty King loves justice. You have established equity, you have exercised justice and righteousness in Jacob. Exalt the Lord our God and worship at his footstool. He is holy. Moses and Aaron were among his priests. Samuel was among those who called on his name. They called to the Lord, and he answered. He spoke to them from the pillar of cloud. They kept his decrees and the statutes he gave them. O Lord our God, you answered them. You were a forgiving God to them, yet an avenger of their misdeeds. Exalt the Lord our God and worship at his holy mountain, for the Lord our God is holy. And now to the New Testament in Revelation chapter 11. Last time in Revelation, we saw an angel that came down. He had 1 foot on the sea and 1 foot on the land. And he had a scroll in his hand that God told John to eat. And it was sweet as honey in his mouth, but it was bitter in his stomach, and it was prophecies. He's told he has to prophesy about many nations, tongues, and kings. All right, well, let's go ahead and get into our reading today in Revelation chapter 11. Then I was given a measuring rod like a staff and was told, go and measure the temple of God and the altar and count the number of worshipers there. But exclude the courtyard outside the temple. Do not measure it, because it has been given over to the nations, and they will trample the holy city for 42 months. And I will empower my 2 witnesses, and they will prophesy for 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. These witnesses are the 2 olive trees and the 2 lampstands that stand before the Lord of the earth. If anyone wants to harm them, fire proceeds from their mouths and devours their enemies. In this way, anyone who wants to harm them must be killed. These witnesses have power to shut the sky so that no rain will fall during the days of their prophecy, and power to turn the waters into blood, and to strike the earth with every kind of plague as often as they wish. When the 2 witnesses have finished their testimony, the beast that comes up from the abyss will wage war with them, and will overpower and kill them. Their bodies will lie in the street of the great city, figuratively called Sodom and Egypt, where their Lord was also crucified. For 3.5 days all peoples and tribes and tongues and nations will view their bodies, and will not permit them to be laid in a tomb. And those who dwell on the earth will gloat over them, and will celebrate and send one another gifts, because these 2 prophets had tormented them. But after 3.5 days, the breath of life from God entered the two witnesses, and they stood on their feet, and great fear fell upon those who saw them. And the witnesses heard a loud voice from heaven saying, "Come up here." And they went up to heaven in a cloud as their enemies watched them. And in that hour there was a great earthquake, and 1/10 of the city collapsed. 7,000 were killed in the quake, and the rest were terrified and gave glory to the God of heaven. The second woe has passed. Behold, the third woe is coming shortly. Then the seventh angel sounded his trumpet, and loud voices called out in heaven, "The kingdom of the world has become the kingdom of our Lord and of his Christ, and he will reign forever and ever." And the 24 elders who sit on their thrones before God fell on their faces and worshipped God, saying, "We give thanks to you, O Lord God Almighty, the one who is and who was, because you have taken your great power and have begun to reign. The nations were enraged, and your wrath has come. The time has come to judge the dead and to reward your servants, the prophets, as well as the saints and those who fear your name, both small and great, and to destroy those who destroy the earth." Then the temple of God in heaven was opened, and the ark of his covenant appeared in his temple. And there were flashes of lightning and rumblings and peals of thunder and an earthquake and a great hailstorm. All right, so today we heard from Eliphaz the Temanite, and he said a lot of true things about God, but the problem was that he also said some things that were not true. And he basically said the only people who suffer are those who have done wrong, who God is disciplining. And it's true, God does discipline, and people do suffer because of their sins, but even the righteous suffer. And he did not understand that. And Job then responds and says, "Why is it that you have to respond to what I'm saying? I'm speaking in bitterness because of my pain. You should not be responding like this. You are not good friends." And it seems like towards the end of our reading today, he was speaking to God. Now, the translators certainly think so because they capitalized you, which means he's speaking to God, but that's just the translator's idea. He could have been speaking to Eliphaz when he says you, but there are certain things that he says that don't seem to fit with anybody but God, especially where he says, "Why do you not pardon my transgression and take away my iniquity?" I'm not sure how he would be saying that to Eliphaz, but certainly he has this hope that God will just kill him. That's what he's seeking. That's what he wants. And that's not what he's going to get. He's going to get something much better than that. But for now, in the suffering that he's in, that's the only thing he can see that can bring relief. In Psalm 99, we saw this focus on the holiness of God, that God is truly great and he has done great things. He's a God of justice and righteousness. He is someone who was worshipped by Moses and Aaron and Samuel, these great men who did great things because they worshiped God. And he is different from all other gods or any other being. He is indeed holy, including his forgiveness that he gives. That is part of his holiness. That is part of what makes God special and why we worship him. Then in Revelation 11, we see John measuring the temple. And this is a picture that you see in some of the Old Testament prophecies. It's usually related to judgment coming. But he says that the courtyard of the temple was given to the nations or the Gentiles to trample for 42 months. That's 3.5 years. And then there's 2 witnesses who will prophesy for 1,260 days, also 3.5 years. And I don't know for sure what all the significance is to 3.5, other than it's half of 7. And 7 is a significant number in Revelation. These two witnesses seem to represent Elijah and Moses. They can shut up the sky so that no rain falls. That's Elijah in the Old Testament. 3.5 years was how long it did not rain when he was prophesying. And then there's the power to turn water to blood and strike the earth with every kind of plague. And that certainly reminds us of Moses. And so we have this picture of Moses and Elijah being involved in the testimony here. And it seems like that represents the Old Testament. And then you have this beast that comes up from the abyss, which we're going to see is the nation of Rome. And he wages war with them and kills them. And then they're raised up and taken up into heaven. But where their bodies lie is not Rome, it is Jerusalem. It's figuratively called Sodom and Egypt, but it's where their Lord was crucified. So that has to be Jerusalem that it's referring to there. And then after they are taken up into heaven, after 3.5 days, then there's this great earthquake and 1/10 of the city collapses. So this appears to be a judgment that's coming on Jerusalem at this point, and God is praised for bringing judgment. It's time to judge the dead and to reward his servants and to destroy those who destroy the earth. And then you have the temple now being in heaven. So the temple on earth is destroyed. The temple now is in heaven. And that's where the worship of God takes place and where the covenant of God, the Ark of the Covenant, the new covenant, is found there. All right, well, that's the reading for today. Join me again tomorrow when, Lord willing, we'll continue on with this Berean pursuit.